Welcome back, Shield Wall Nation. This video is going to be about how Russia already failed. Now, stay tuned and let's talk about little key points that I believe, my personal opinion, of why Russia has already failed this war against Ukraine. So, to kind of understand, and I'm not going to go into immense detail, as you can probably find on other videos that may have graphics and video cutscenes to Putin talking and other dignitaries talking across the world. But I'm just going to do the low down and dirty, so you can just get the facts, and then if you want more details, you can actually do it yourself. With that being said, let's talk about Putin's story. Putin's story that he told to his people, Putin's story that he told to the world. Now, I know I mentioned in another video that how he lied to his people and the news media walked out and all that good stuff. But let's talk a little bit more detail on other aspects of his story that he spun to the people. So one is Ukraine belongs to Russia. Not belonged, belongs. They still belong to Russia. So we know that Ukraine did once belong to Soviet Russia, USSR, and decided to be its own sovereign nation and split. And we also know that there are some people that are in Ukraine that have Russian sympathy, that they still want to be part of Russia. So we're just going to ignore that because we know that's still facts today. Let me adjust the camera here. But he believes that Ukraine still belongs to Russia. That they have this fantasy that Ukraine left Russia. In fact, that Ukraine was never a country on its own. A little delusional. He believes that the Ukrainian people are asleep. They're in this deep sleep, and once they realize, and once the attacks start, that they'll suddenly wake up, right? So that's one of his stories. The other story he told was Ukraine has been hijacked by the West, and meaning that with the West put in their own puppet government to have sympathy towards the West and Western ideologies and democratic government structure and everything like that. And he believes that it's a huge threat to Russia. And by having them hijacked, having Ukraine hijacked by the West, is trying to bring the West closer to Russia to have an easier way to attack. That's his thought on that. And his other thought, and his big thing that he's been pushing for a while, is that the country is run by neo-Nazis. It's ran by neo-Nazis, saying that the president of Ukraine is a neo-Nazi himself. Let's cover that. The president of Ukraine is Jewish, and he has Jewish relatives that survived the Holocaust. So why would he then sympathize and promote Nazism? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And the sad thing is Russian people are actually believing this. They're actually believing this initially, right? So let's talk about the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They're there, yes. They actually have a militia that's there. They actually fought in the Crimean War. They were there. They exist. And there's no denying that they exist. Now, we are, as the rest of the world and the rest of the sane world are saying that Ukraine is not ran by neo-Nazis. In fact, the leader of the neo-Nazi group, whoever it may be, they try to put people into the seats of their country's government. 2% They made up for 2% of voting, and they have 0 seats. 0. Not one where they can, weasel their way in. 0. So, there's no neo-Nazis in Ukraine. So with Putin's story, he believes that they must invade. They must invade to free Ukrainians. And like I said, they must invade to free Ukrainians from this mental sleep that they're in, that they are actually part of Russia. Now we know there's 2 groups in Ukraine on the eastern side that are pro-Russians, and they've been fighting for quite a while over that bit of land, and Russia's kind of been interjecting people, arms, munitions, things like that to fight the war. So there's been fighting over there for a while. There's no denying that. But now all of a sudden we need to free the rest of them. This is his little story he's spinning in his head, and he spoke to his people about. And like I mentioned earlier, he's also doing it to protect Russia. He's doing it to protect Russia from the West. And if we look at the borders, NATO is considered the West, the Western threat to Russia. And if you look at all the NATO countries, it's very close. So they don't want the West to take Ukraine because it put them closer to Russia, the motherland Russia. But if Ukraine was already part of Russia, therefore it's Russia. So if Russians take over Ukraine, we will still be just as close to Russian borders as if we take over Ukraine. It's not about this threat. It's about resources. That's all war is about. War is a huge proponent of money making and resources. You don't go fight a war for nothing. If there's money involved, there's resources involved. So Ukraine is a huge proponent in this world's industry of resources. And Russia wants it. Russia lost it, they felt it, now they want it. So that's why they have to invade Ukraine to protect Russia. And initially they believed it. The Russians believed it. They believe that even the soldiers, like I mentioned before in another video, that the soldiers believed that they were on the border just for training. That's what he spun to his people and to the world, that they're there for training exercises. Now, anyone that isn't dumb, basically, could see that there was more than just training going on. There's something else. And this is happening for years. There's something else. Why is there so much training on the border? You have all your country. Why are you training right on the border? Like, come on, Putin. I know you're not dumb. But for you to think that the rest of the world's that dumb, go talk to, you need some evaluation, because you can't possibly think without a shadow of a doubt that everyone's that dumb to believe your lie. But here we are. So he invaded. Surprise. And his people weren't surprised. Were they not surprised because he's a dictator and fear for what they're going to do to him and his family? And the soldier's family and civilian's family? Yes. There are little children in Russia that put flowers at the Ukrainian embassy. They are arrested. Little children arrested for putting flowers on the Ukrainian embassy. Little kids unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is the amount of fear that the Russian leadership and government and the oligarchs have. fear that the people will step out of line and realize that they're full of lies and deceit and actually have free will and free thought to do what they want. So we saw that, we know that happened. We saw on Russian news the staff that walked out. We saw that. Now on the 14th of this month, March 14th, the Russians are going to shut down their entire country to outside internet. Why? So they say is to prevent hacker attacks. Once again, you thought we're stupid about your training on the border. Now you think we're stupid about this? You're afraid, just like the Chinese are afraid from outside media sources telling them the truth of what's going on the ground. Because Russians are seeing what's going on the ground and they're not liking it. The oligarchs are feeling pain because they're getting, blocked from all the countries holding them down, blocking their bank accounts, and they're feeling a financial pain. Those oligarchs are what's financing Putin and his war and putting Putin into the position he is. If he's not doing his job, he will suddenly disappear. Everyone's afraid over there. And if Putin doesn't do something, he's going to suddenly not exist. So what's he doing? Like I said, shutting down the Russian internet. So the Russian people have no outside news source to tell them the truth. So once again, the Russian people can be under the thumb of Putin, be brainwashed by Putin. So, has Russia already lost the war? I believe so in many ways. We have Ukrainians. He also thought that the Ukrainian people will welcome him and the Russians with open arms, lay down arms, and be happy to come back home. But that's not the case. That's not the case. They're telling the Russians to go F off, to go back to their lands. They don't belong here. That these people in Ukraine are full-blooded Ukrainians and they love their country. They have civilians fighting. They have lines. They can't fulfill the everyone's trying to join the Ukrainian army. They have lines out the door. They have no more room. Civilians are picking up arms and fighting. Like, this is a true precedent of showing that Ukraine is proud of their country and they're not going to roll over to Russian aggression. So Putin's scared. He's amping up his artillery strikes. He's amping up his attacks. He's throwing nukes around, a nuke threat around, not actual nukes. He's throwing the threat of using nukes around because he's scared. Everything that he said that Ukrainians will do and all the lies that he's told to his Russian people are coming to fruition. And everyone's seeing it. So, with that being said, I'm going to stop here. Everyone just look at the bigger picture. Because the media only tells a small portion of what's going on. Media from Ukraine, Europe, United States, Russia, they're all showing little windows of what's going on. Try to see the bigger picture. Even with me, I'm only showing you a small little window. I can't show you everything. But just make sure you understand there's a bigger picture to everything. So, stay safe, stay resilient, shield wall,